Okay. Let me do that. Okay, I'm back on. Cool. So I just want to get to those questions because you did fire those back to me by email. That was good. And I
Yeah,
was
maybe we.
editing a video
Hmm.
of me from like a couple years ago when I sold my house. And basically, I'm going to put it up there tonight today. It's basically making collard greens and some short ribs. I mean that's all I've been doing. I've been cooking and doing all that crazy shit in my spare time. I mean, but I've been doing this all along. But anyhow, now I'm actually posting posting this because I want people to know how how to do this. You know,
Okay. Yeah, how to do it. Yeah.
yeah, because a lot of people in production that they just don't know how to cook. It's horrible. So I got my Joe Rogan, and that's the other bad thing to do is listen to Joe Rogan before you go online and you do your own thing. You're just like, fuck. I was listening.
Not a good mental space to get into right off the
Yeah,
bat.
that's true. That's true. Okay. So, so here we go. All right. So this is how I started.
And do we cap out at 40 minutes? Is there a
Yeah,
timeline
40.
or is
Yeah, yeah. And I
it?
think
Okay.
right now we are what
So we got half an hour.
we gotta have.
This
Okay,
is
cool.
cool.
All right. So let me start my thing. This is my camera here. Great. Okay. Hey everybody, Chuck here from Viper Studios and Unit 3 Live. Glad you can join me today. I got an awesome guest. Many of you know him, and many of you don't. This guy he's a legend. He's a legend. He's all over the world. He actually travels and does productions all around the world. And if you close to home, if you live in Brooklyn, if you ever gone to celebrate Brooklyn stage, there you go. You'll see our good friend Brandon Boyd from BoydDesign. Welcome, Brandon. How you doing? Good to see you.
Hey, super Chuck. Hey,
How's
hello,
everything going,
hello.
buddy? So I wanted to ask you, in this whole coronavirus, pandemic, what are you doing to keep busy?
Oh, wow. That's a great question because that's the only way to stay sane in this. Because if you're not staying busy, then
Yeah.
yeah, then you're just going crazy, right? So there's some, early on, I was taking some, there's plenty of education out there, and a lot of the vendors opened up,
Hmm.
free online training. So that's good. So there's some, right off the bat, I went in and I did some, lighting console training that I've been really procrastinating for a long time,
Right.
and spent a couple hours on that and getting refreshed, because that's one of the things you got to do anyway. To stay fresh in the scene, you have to continue to educate. You know what I mean? And as you get older, those educations are different.
Yeah.
And those trainings are different than the actual go in there and find out how a moving light actually works. I don't really care about that anymore, but I care
Yeah.
about how the controllers and how they interface and how they look. That's a really important thing. So
Right.
so I did a little bit of that early on. And then, I try to get into a routine. So in the morning, I wake up, and I have an ongoing every day. There's an 11 o'clock check-in with a producing team that I work with a lot.
Mhm.
And I don't have to attend those every day. It's not mandatory or anything, but there's one. It's 11 a.m. every day. So wake up, do some stuff, get a couple hours in on the computer to keep going. I will say it's nice to not have a full inbox. That's one of the things that does give me anxiety over in some of these projects that we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
That you're just inundated with emails and there's no way to get to shovel out.
Right.
But so it is kind of refreshing to wake up and see 10 in my inbox, and like, yeah, and half of them are stuff I've saved that said I've paid my bill or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So um, so it's doing that, and then once I get past, around noontime or 1 or something like afternoon, do kind of a half day to just keep it going, and then I'll just dump in on house projects and hobbies,
Mhm.
and garden. We have a big garden here in the house. We have been a while, and now that we're coming into spring, I go out and unwinterize the rain barrels,
Right.
get that thing cooking, and till up the garden a little bit, get that going, rake and mow and weed whack and all the household stuff that you have.
Yeah.
And then I also am one of my hobbies is classic Kawasaki motorcycles, triples actually from the 70s.
Nice.
And I have a couple of them, and I've either in some rendition or not, either broken them down all the way to the frame and to the engine and cracked the engine and redid cranks, to just polishing them up with some elbow grease and making them shine. And I like to tinker. I like the hands-on kind of, nuts and bolts.
Right.
There's
Right.
one of, and that has always been my way. I've always been that way. I've been very hands-on, very technical, very hands-on, and I've been able to translate that pretty well into what I do. And you
No, that's awesome
know,
because most of us who have known you, who have worked with you, have only known you in kind of like that one capacity where you've been the production manager, or you've been the LD, or you're running the crews and things like that. And to hear that you have all these other not necessarily hidden skills, but it's cool to actually hear that that you are actively doing things very 180 degrees opposite of what we're normally doing in our daily lives, right, in production. It's pretty
yeah,
cool.
some things I will say,
Mhm.
some things do translate pretty well. They do roll over. Some of the, I grew up, we built our house. My parents built the house that they live in now. And my stepdad was a kind of a makeshift general contractor in his own, correction officer by night,
Yeah.
general contractor by day. So a lot of free kid labor, I was doing all these things and I was learning, all this time learning these trades, whether it's plumbing or drywall or carpentry or blah, 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 all those,
Yeah.
those, I wouldn't call myself a grade A carpenter, but I certainly know how to operate all the tools and know how to do carpentry, same deal with plumbing. I could sweat a pipe, I could run drainage, I could do this kind of stuff. Would I want to do a whole house of it? No. Do we do very much plumbing in production? No.
Oh.
But carpentry, we totally do a lot of.
Right.
And if we're not actually hammering and screw gunning, we can see if it's working or not. If the team out there is doing it right or wrong, or the process is weird, or they're building it upside down, or whatever. We've seen it all, but those skill sets that I was able to grab growing up really help inform my decisions and my outlook and my leadership on the crews and the teams.
Right. Yeah. So listen, so give us an idea what you have been doing, like what your, obviously your occupation. You're not just a lighting designer, but I mean, that's kind of like where I met you many years ago, almost 20 years ago, I think, probably 15, 20 years ago. Give us a little background on, because again, what you're doing now in this COVID-19 period, besides having, those online conferences and stuff like that with your design team, but when we were all working 100% in the industry, give us an idea of what all those, like basically all those hats that you were wearing.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's hard to pin down to one thing, because there's an adage I heard a while back that was like, you can either be the jack of all trades, master of none, or like the supreme master of that one trade, right? A super skilled, take like designers on Broadway. That's what they do. They are, a sound designer or a lighting designer or a scenic designer. Like that's what they're going to do, because that's what you have to really devote all your time and attention. All your contacts, all your networking is all right there on the right way. And you stick with it, because one show overlaps to another show, overlaps into another show, and they all just piggyback on each other.
Right.
But that's all you're doing, is in my case, I explored that. I came right out of school and went right down to Broadway and was ALD, assistant lighting designer, on some shows, and doing the paperwork and focus charts and all this other stuff. But that is what you're doing. You better like it, because those are what you're doing.
Yeah.
Whereas, conversely, what I ended up doing is that I have a multitude of skill sets that I like doing, that I still continue to do. I love being a lighting designer. That's all. I'm all trained for it. I got my degrees in it, my bachelor's and my MFA in lighting design, theatrical lighting design. So I'm a theater guy, tried and true. But I realized, theater is a very collaborative art, which I really like, and there's value to that. But it does, historically speaking, doesn't pay super well, right? So you have to find another balance of a corporate event or an industrial event or concerts or this, or all these other avenues and aspects of our business, which is awesome that our business has that many things.
Yeah.
And diversify, like you would a stock portfolio. So put a little bit of this, I want to do a little bit of theater. That'll keep my art batteries good.
Yeah.
And keep my outlook and my perspective on the event in a different light, no pun intended, but with the theater stuff. Then you go and switch over to these other events and you're like, okay, it's really not about the art. It's about getting people in here, getting them to see that logo and getting them out and getting it quick and turning it in and making it clean and comfortable. And so there's different kind of, skill set, different kind of thought processes that go in. But all my degrees, and I still love lighting design. I'll always be a lighting designer. It's
Yep.
what I like doing. It's what, really gives you a little zip in the step in the morning.
Yep.
But over time, I found that I like and I'm good at spreadsheets and budgets and planning and that kind of thing, which is a little more, what along the lines of what I'm doing. That's the production management, tech producing. I'm a producing team on some of these events now, and my lighting training certainly plays a big role in
Yep.
making informed decisions, because I'd be, the lighting guy, I might not be that person.
Right.
This lighting designer that I'm going to hire is going to want truss here or booms over here or
Right.
power in that corner. And the same deal. I've done 20 plus years, so 2 decades of work with live events and concerts with you, with Viper and a team.
Yep.
That I know what sounds good.
Yeah, right.
I actually know what sounds good, and I can know what sounds really bad, but I couldn't tell you. I couldn't go up to a guy and say, hey, roll out some of that EQ on that thing. I could just be like, I don't hear enough vocals. The vocals should be up high, up first, so, and that's just from doing these events with, colleagues like you, friends and colleagues that say, yeah, that was a tough, we have that post dialogue at the end of the show and be like, oh, that guy was great, or that guy was not great. What did I have to do? And I catalog that information. So then the next event, when the guy sounds all muffled, I can say, oh, that's because he's running it through a filter, and that's not the right thing to do, or whatever it is,
Yeah.
So long answer short answer long. Lighting design is my key, but I've been lately a production manager, tech director on events. It just seems to be, it fits me better because I very technical minded. The aforementioned skills of all that stuff. A tech director really needs to know the whole package and what a production manager and a tech director, depending on what segment of the industry you're in, mean different things too. So theatrical production manager versus a corporate production manager do different things. They do there's overlap, but they also are different.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. But the good thing is, your history as a lighting technician, like you said, you can convey that message to the higher ups who are hiring you to produce that, to tech that job or to produce that job, that, these are the things that this is why we need this, because again, you understand the framework of the lighting, why you need all those instruments, where they need to be placed, et cetera, especially if the budget is tight and, it kind of goes a little bit over budget. You can, what to take away from, what to add, and what to manipulate, maybe even from the audio, maybe you don't need all those speakers. Maybe you can do it with a different kind of a different system, in order to get, because a lot of times if people are in the dark, then that's an issue. You can still hear people, but you need to see people also. So there's that give and take, which is
It's all about communicating.
Yeah.
And whether that's the visual cues or the audio cues, or if you're talking or speaking or you're not, like all that everyone has to be on the same page. And that goes, we have, lots to talk about, but it really boils down to communication, and we have a lot of methods at our disposal between our phones and this. I digress for a hot second, in COVID land here, that we're stuck at home and we're self-isolating, which is great. We're happy and healthy and we haven't experienced any symptoms. It's all good.
Yeah.
But, go through some stuff. One of the chores was I have boxes of these, bankers boxes full of old show files.
Oh, jeez.
And going back to, 2000. Literally, I think it started at 1999 and went on to 2000, and they're just manila folders with paperwork and stuff in them, and old invoices, maybe a sketch, a drawing. But I was going through a lot of them, and it was like pre-real emails were happening, but it wasn't. There were a lot of faxes, a lot of fax covers.
Yeah.
Please call me when you receive this. Please, fax orders that are contracts with shops that are like, I get the gear list. And on page 4, my Hancock, and then I stamp it and send it back to them and say, we're good.
Yeah.
So it's only been 15, 20 years since that stuff. It's, Blackberries and iPhones and all this have made huge strides.
Sure.
But it kind of adds to our little, bullet point later on about pressure in the thing. It's just another point of where you can get pressured. It's to light this thing up like, texts and emails and everything, or the good old days of let me just pick up the phone and not call the guy and If he's there, I'll leave a message. Or if he's not there, I'll leave a message. If he is there, all right, we'll talk, and then we'll get it done. So
yeah, because I was gonna say that was when like text messages were like 25 cents a text, right?
right, yeah, no one's doing it, right?
And you really didn't want to get a text message or even send one because it was either way, right? Out or in, you got charged for it, and now we take it for granted. Unbelievable.
Now, right? Unbelievable. Totally unlimited minutes too. Everything was clocked on a minute. Your cell phones, you got a finite charge and then finite amount.
Yeah.
Now forget it. Open. Just we're talking around the world on the interwebs here, and we do it. It's awesome. It's really awesome. I was again looking through the historical stuff and to the fact that I can grab my phone. WhatsApp or text, use an app to text a foreign friend, and I do a couple projects that do travel around the world, and we have design teams that are and the talent and the producing staff are all around the world. So we have producers in Europe, we have them in South Africa, but North America, Canada, all over the place.
Yeah.
And I could pick up my phone and hit up Michele, who is a colleague, a friend, and a sound operator, a front of house engineer for one of my productions, and boom, hit him up with WhatsApp.
Yeah.
It might be late. He never sleeps, so it doesn't matter. I can hit him up at 11 o'clock midnight, which is 5, 6 o'clock our time, and then and he'll ping me back, and I'll just call him, or we'll just text all my for a couple minutes, and then I'll get all my answers that I need because I'm working with the contracts, trying to secure the vendors and get the gear that I don't know the difference between a Meyer UP and a Meyer UPP or UPA. Like like it's a speaker that's this big. I know that it sounds great, and I want them, but I don't know how many. If because vendors come to me and they say, "Well, we have 6 of these, and you've requested 8, so or we can give you these 6 that you've asked for, and you can make a concession there, or we can give you 8 of this other flavor."
Yeah,
and then I don't want to put my design team in a pinch there. So then I have to, get the answer from them. I'm the middleman there, right? To find out. Lighting I can deal with, all the other scenic stuff I can deal with. Some of the audio stuff gets a little challenging for me. So I hit the designer up instantaneously.
Right.
10 years ago, it would be an email, and he's in Europe, he's in Italy, and he's going to get it tomorrow and might not reply. And then he'll give me another, and then before I get an answer, it's 3-4 days later. And that vendor might be in another state, country as well. So before I get one answer about one substitution, it's a week later.
Right.
So we lose time. But now, no more. Now we're just
now it's like in real time. It's literally in real time compared to what it was just like, 10 years ago isn't a lot when you think of it, especially when it comes to even the advancement in technologies and things like that. Things have gotten faster. Things that were analogish or packaged in a different way are just kind of repackaged and made more miniaturized as opposed to how large things used to be, right? So we've gained a lot in terms of in size, right? Meaning smaller size. Lights are even smaller. The lighter in weight. There's less. The time you're setting up more instruments in less time, technically. But then there's so much more that you're doing within that time that you gain, but now
I know. For some fixed parameters stay fixed.
And
right? The sun's only up for X amount of hours a day, so you can only do so much outside without any light. Or the venues are only open for 10 hours that day. You have to jam in,
all that
into that time. And so it's like a blessing and a curse, catch-22. Right?
So true.
More stuff, more cool stuff, more new LED, more of this, but
that's true.
There's more of it.
Because I was going to make the comparison how we've gained more time, and then again more gear is being put out on gear, but again it's smaller, or it's more powerful. And then also in our office when we're doing all the office work, we have more time, but yet we have so much more that we have to do within that time. With pre-visualizations, the drawings, the communication back and forth, whether it's text, whether it's emails, whether it's like you said, whatever it is being transferred back and forth internationally, domestically, stuff like that. It's really, really cool. And you're not just working on one project; you're probably working on multiples, maybe 2, 3, maybe sometimes 4, depending on what it is. Even sometimes 5. So you really need much more of a staff at some point. A lot of young cats are talking about now the CMRs. the CMR programs where, you can basically track the emails, the phone numbers, and then you can put some kind of like artificial uh, calendar settings where you can reply back quicker to multiple clients, that kind of stuff, which is cool. But I think some of us,
you lose the personalization is my first reaction to that. Is like you put a robot on it and it's going to churn out some replies, auto replies, but I think that could work for other disciplines, other sectors, not necessarily our stuff, but certainly for sales, if you're doing construction sales or any kind of sales for that matter, where you have a warehouse full of stuff and you're just pinging potential clients to buy a pallet of widget, like that could really work, because then you could just hit out just list after list. But from my standpoint, that's one of the challenges, is that we don't have a tangible product, right? We don't have a thing.
We're actually creating it.
Or this, like we don't have. We're actually it's a service that is a consultant or a design service that we bring. You print out some paperwork and some tangible items like that, like in schedules and budgets and whatever. You can print them up, sure, but why? You know what I mean? Like, no, you don't need to print them up anymore. Everything's on a digital form, save some trees. And then, but we don't have a thing that we're boxing up and selling, so that people can hold. So that's really where now you got to really capture all this content. You got to capture where we are, so you can show it off later. At least talk about it later. Like we were in a little bit of prep for this. You got to get overwhelmed because I have we take so many pictures on our phones, like really quick, and a lot of mine are junky. Like they're literally, it's like, oh, that's the don't stake into the sewer, hole over there, or don't, watch out, there's some funky thing that was broken when we walked into the venue. I'm going to take 5 shots of that because I don't want to get charged in the back end when we leave.
Right, the document.
Yeah, you document it. So it's like, so I have, 80,000 pictures, exaggeration, but no exaggeration, of just junk that is not relatable anymore. And you kind of scale through it. Lately, I've been pretty good about, we capture some of the clients they bring in their photographers or their videographers, and you kind of reach out to them and see if you can get access to those. That wasn't always available though, as you start young and start off in different layer or a different class of our industry, like slinging a wrench as a lighting technician. Right. I'm not going to go to the client and say, hey, can I get the pictures of this event? I like working on it. 2 reasons. One, the most important, just don't talk to the client if you don't have a relationship with them. But, and 2, what am I going to do? I'm going to say, oh, I worked on this big gala and I hung 50 moving lights. Here's the picture of the moving lights I hung, or something. Like, I don't know, it doesn't apply for it. Whereas if I was the designer of that event, I want a ton of pictures showing off.
Exactly.
It's just a different, you're marketing to different things with that picture. Right?
Yeah, that's so true. So let me ask you, what inspired you to get into the industry? I mean, was it recent? I mean, within the last 15 years, or was it earlier than that?
Earlier, right before college. In high school, we did a lot of productions. I was in band. I played French horn, and cool. And then that turns into the stage crew, because the stage crew had to set up all the stuff for everything. We had to set up all the band, break it all down, so then the theater cats could get in there and perform. We would do a musical every other year. Okay. And then we do a kind of a show every year with the show choir, which was the performance choir, part of the, it's a subset of the big choir. The big choir is 100-something kids, but show choir is probably like 30 maybe. And I don't even remember the show, but there was a thing that they had a call and response that it was women and men, stage right, stage left. And it was like, la, 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 like, and it was like this thing back and forth, right? And I'm sitting there, I was like, this would be really cool to just light, they're in a circle, right? Like, let me just light them like this, boom, 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 and light it. And, very simple crossfade, 2 handles. But at that time, whatever, like the dimming system was bad, controller, no one knew how to use it. There was one, the band instructor knew maybe how to turn it on, but he definitely didn't know how to patch it or any of that kind of stuff. So there's a little bit of learning on my own and trying to figure it out. Hung it, guy working, we're in rehearsals. I got the handles, we're doing the thing, and then my appendix nearly burst, and I had to go to the hospital and missed the show. right? You know, it didn't burst. It didn't burst. It was just, you know, really
Really
bad,
painful. Yeah.
really painful.
Yeah.
And then
Oh
I missed
God.
the show. So they ended up doing it in like just white light on, you know, Q1 on. And I was like, oh man. So then but I got the bug, you know, hanging a couple, I hung 2 Fresnels.
Right.
I found dimmers.
Yeah.
I circuited them. I, you know, did this whole thing. I didn't put any color in them. I, you know, focused them. Again, on my own, figuring out how to get the batten system in and doing it, a little stagecraft, you know, history there.
Yeah.
And then when I applied for engineering, was going to go and become a, you know, engineer. And then math, when you get into advanced math, math isn't math anymore. It actually is all a theory of math, which sucks. I don't like it. You know, like 2 plus 2, 2 minus 2 doesn't equal 2 and equals 0. 2 minus 2 approaches 0. And then you have to figure out all that. And I was like, not fun. But so then I kind of shifted into, you know, I liked lighting and, you know, and then some money budget stuff and how to afford college and stuck to state school. And I went into a theater program. So, and in a technical theater program, and grew up through tech theater, and then moved down to the city right after I graduated. Grew up in the Hudson Valley, you know, New York. So then I moved out, always been in and around the city. We go to Rockettes every winter, and, you know, and go see a Broadway show. My mom still loves to go see Broadway shows, which is cool.
Yeah.
So I got the bugger. I got it, you know, got it in high school and kept it going. You know, I deviated a little bit here and there, but for the most part, you know, jobs, I deviated one-off jobs. But throughout college, you know, we had a relationship. The university had a relationship with the local stagehand union. And then so I was able to intern or, you know, apprentice through them. And by the time I ended up undergraduate, I had a union card. So then I moved down to New York and I was working union jobs. You know, I worked let's say, there's a helicopter one, and which is Miss Saigon. Les Mis is what I could always get them mixed up. Les Mis is what I worked on, and I worked on the props crew, and I worked there for a couple months. I would say half a year, maybe, but maybe half a year. And it was very steady, very consistent. And I had my things I had to do on Mondays, and, you know, I had to get bread, and for the week I had to build some breakaway chair that happens in the whole thing. And, you know, so I got in there, but I still don't want to be a stagehand all my life. Like I just didn't want to be a career stagehand. Doing that same series of tasks
over and over
until whenever. You know, it's really cool to do it on a show run. I think there's value to that. There's repetition. You get better at it. You get more efficient. You know, working in the shadows and the backstage crew. I love that kind of stuff. But to do that for 10, 15, 25, 35 years, like some of these guys are doing, working on Broadway, you're certainly paying the bills. You're doing well. But there's no mental
growth,
challenge,
right? There's no challenge.
No mental growth either. It was just very stagnant. I saw it early. I was like, oof, you know, I got to wait for this guy to die off before I get the head of props, you know, and he's, you know, 35-year-old dude. And I'm like, okay, well, so, and then after that, so did a little bit of time Broadway, new stuff, then moved up to UConn, got my master's up there.
Oh, cool.
And then right after UConn, came back down to the city because I love the city. I love New York. I love what it is.
It's exciting.
It is exciting. You have everything at your fingertips.
There's so much. There's so much of a variety. It's not just a variety, but because a variety is more like, let's say if you threw pitchers down on the floor, but then if you were actually able to lift every pitcher and continue to lift them, and you're actually digging deeper down layers, like, you know what I'm saying? That's how New York City is. It's like there's so much, and there's constantly so much more happening. And when you think you've done it all, well, you could do it all pretty much. But then you realize that you start full circle again, and you're not bored because, like you said, you're not doing the same thing over and over again as if you were a carpenter. And hey, listen, we need carpenters, right? We need guys and gals that are in this industry who are consistent, and that's all they want to do. They found a job. It's a 9 to 5, or it's a 10-hour, 12-hour, 16-hour day, and they love it. And they become part of the fabric, right, of what we get to enjoy. But at the same time, those of us who really aspire and really want to do more, it's that Alice in Wonderland, whatever, you know, that rabbit hole,
Yeah.
Well, it's not a
Yeah.
rabbit hole that brings you down. It's a rabbit hole
Yeah.
that keeps you going into the Z-axis, right? You just keep going into more and more of the depth, more, you're just going to one door of opportunity into the next door of opportunity. And then that's where, like you and I, we've met so many people, and through our experiences, through our network, or the network that we eventually develop, now you have your remember the Rolodex,
Yeah.
your network of
Business
friends
card. Yeah.
that you just contact. Okay, listen, I remember I worked on this show. Let me see if this guy's available. Let me see if she's available, and then that's how you can piecemeal and put your teams together, which is a virtual type of office or a mindset where you can quickly assemble and then start that production and get that thing going. I mean, it really
There
is
are right people for the right jobs.
Exactly.
Like that. It's really. There's a lot of people that could do the job, but there's the right individuals for those jobs. I found, and more, and again, in each little division of what we end up doing, whether it's a corporate event or this and this, some people need to be polished. You need to have really forward-facing.
Yeah.
People that know how to communicate well, but then there's others that you just need to get them in there and bang it out. Just get it done and get it up and running, and don't polish anything. Just get it. And those two individuals, those two different types, are two different types.
Yeah.
So you find on early when you're doing you find out early, and then, but it's key to know, that's what, and it's one of my little things that I've been doing lately the last couple of years now, is anytime I meet someone new or hire someone or do this, and they go into the contacts, they go into the contact list, and you put their name, their phone, and all this other stuff. And then in the notes field, I put the job that I met them in, what year it was, and what I should remember about.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Just a little couple blurbs there, but
just to remind you, just to refresh your memory.
Just a little reminder. Pays dividends, especially for like entry-level staff that I'm in a management position, and I hire the crew and the team, but they hire subcontractors or teammates for them, maybe not subcontractors, but just more colleagues on their staff. I may not know those people, but I'll be introduced to them, and if I know, but later on, 3-4 years down the road, when they're seeking master electrician or head carpenter or whatever these roles and they're looking, because they've worked 3, 4, 5 years in the industry and they have those skill sets now,
right?
I can go back. Oh yeah, guess what? Oh, you remember that? We worked on this thing in Brooklyn Bridge Park back in 2004, and whoa, times have changed. Look at that. And then you at least have a springboard to, start the communication process and figure out how you and I communicate really well. It's easy. It's always been easy, but sometimes it's not, and it's those ones you're just like, why isn't it getting into their head? Like, why? I don't understand. Maybe I'm saying it too direct, maybe I got to soften a little bit. Maybe I'm too soft. Maybe, and who knows? But that's what I think. It's a hard skill.
What happens once the longer you're in this industry, what you should be doing besides looking to. Oh, and listen, I want to thank you for those couscous, the cuckoos, I think, or couscous, the Scotch glasses and those things. Awesome. I appreciate you, man, doing all that. Every year, Brandon always remembers us.
The cozies.
And the cozies. The cozies.
Yeah, it's like couscous. Yeah.
So I appreciate that. So that, I really appreciate that. Because we value that, and of course I actually have them at my place where when I do get a chance to sit down and actually have a scotch, I do use it. So
we
it's cool.
Send out promotional mail. We send out gifts every depending on the year, and you get bigger umbrellas and beanie hats. We've got all kinds of, but I've always picked stuff that I actually like to use.
Yeah.
Like that are usable. Like these ones you may see these, we do these whatever water bottles, but I do them over the summer and I give them out to the crew.
That's
so
cool.
This year, this was just last year's, but because I buy them, I and my company buy them, I put my logo on it, but then I put the summer logo on it and then give them off to the team. So it's a little souvenir,
Very
but it's
cool.
It's functional though. You put this thing on your belt, it's hot in the summer and you have to stay hydrated. Otherwise these kids are dying. Not literally.
And most people are, they're always trying to collect swag like t-shirts, hats,
Yep. Yeah. Swags.
But that's actually better. It's more practical. I mean, a hat's practical.
That's what I try, I give the swag out to the team, the crew, we'll buy t-shirts and polos and that, and that we want them to look good and represent, you know, again, clean presentation reflects upward, you know. So if the team is looking good and they're working hard, then, you know, it'll make me look good, you know, by having the team. But if they're a bunch of Joe Schmoes with their, you know, pants hanging down and, you know, they're all like this and that, it's weird how people perceive things. They could be the best crew out there, but if they look like, you know,
they're not from the industry,
they don't look like they're the picture that people want to see, then they're not. And it's crazy how
and like you said, you could have the perfect show, you could have the, you know, it could be perfect, but then again, yet you're being judged on, again, just the way people look. And that brings me to my next point, is like, when it comes to working with crews and stuff like that, what's your formula, or how do you recruit, and what's your process with the recruitment? What do you look for in people? Do they have to have skills? Do they just have to be good people? Like what are those attractive markers that you look for?
That's a compound question there.
It is.
So every job, you know, we talked about it. Every job requires different people, like plain and simple. Not just different people, different skill sets, different applications require different solutions. So, you know, there's many instances. We have a very short glass of people that we reach out to that are, it's like the inner hub, and that's what we're doing. We, you know, like there's like 5 to 6 people that we just start with, and then, okay, well, that's not gonna, they're busy on this job, or they're over in this country, or they're not helping me, or they overlap in some certain instances. Now we have multiple projects happening at once, so I have to have my leads on those jobs, because we need those jobs to be taken care of, and you know, effectively, and win, so we can win back the next job, right? Because the happy audience equals a happy artist equals a happy audience equals a happy producer equals our jobs back, right?
Exactly.
So it really starts with is keeping those artists really taken care of, and that's not meaning like fill their rider and the whole Eminem thing and the right, you know, like, no, there's a human element to it. It's like, make sure the
hospitality,
up,
right?
You show up, you say hi, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time, you know, bro hug, real hug, whatever. And then you know that you're working with an individual that's a person there. You show a little bit of care. I think that kind of sets apart some of how I do my job and how I do my hiring too. It's like there's communication, a dialogue that you have to be able to maintain with people, and not just be barking at everybody. You know, this is how I do it. You know, it's you or me or this. You know, like there's times for that, and there's individuals for that, but there's most of the time it's not. You just need someone to kind of really make it happen. But make it happen and like doing it, so then everyone else likes that person who's liking. You know, like you want a good positive. I really
The whole team effort.
The whole team has to be, it has to have a positivity to it. You know, like one of these, I'll talk about hiring. I could talk about hiring forever because we do a ton of it, not currently, but normally it's like every project needs new people that, you know, and you got to vet these people, and whether that's, you know, hopefully it's a referral. Right. That's really what it boils down to. I put up a post and I say, hey, I'm looking for a production coordinator, and you shoot me a text and you're like, yo, you should check out this person. She's great, or he's great, whatever, right? And I said, wonderful, boom, and I call them right up. Chuck threw your name in the hat here. You know, what's going on? You available these times? That's really where it starts. Are you available? Are you interested in available, right? And then if they're interested, yes. Are you available? Yes. Oh man, we're halfway there. You know, like you got a recommendation. You're good for it, and you want to do it. Okay, let's figure the rest out. You know, I'll give you the debrief and we'll figure out the monies. Right. And then there's others that are just like, all right, so that's like a one-off, right? A one-off strategy is a little different than a long-term or a project that has some longevity to it. Whether it's a theatrical show like the aforementioned, you know, Les Mis, where you're just on a run crew and the call times are shorter, but there are more of them. So you end up getting, you know, you get minimums. The payment is different, but your commitment is full time. Right. On those certain things. So we had a run of Antigone back last year at Church St. Anne's in Montague Street in Brooklyn, and it was a theatrical run. So we had, you know, a week and a half of load in. And then we had a week and a half or so of rehearsals and staging and stuff like that. So there was like 3 weeks of on-site stuff happening.
Right.
And then there was, well, we did 2.5 months of runs.
A pre-show.
Like a couple of days off, 2 runs on Wednesdays. And, like there was a, very kind of formal schedule, or a run on a Thursday night, but I give the option to the stage managers like, hey, sure, you can pick up other work, but you gotta still be at the theater to get everyone ready to go and ready to rock for that show.
Right. For those
Thursday
call
night.
times.
Your show's only an hour and a half long, but your call is a 5-hour footprint. It's only 5 hours on a Thursday.
Yeah.
But it's every Thursday for 2.5 months.
Yeah.
So finding the people that want to do that and can do it and are capable of doing it and work well with others that are doing it, right? Because people got to be doing it for the right reasons. When I hire it, can't just be money. It's got to be, it's important, but
because I was going to say, that's there seems to be 2 different type of people in this production world, or in our industry. Those who are freelance and they just want to freelance. They really don't want to commit on a long-term type of thing, even if it's a month, even if it's 2 months. Because their relationships with other companies that they freelance with, they won't get called as much, and so I know that they're giving up something. They're giving up their independence to go for jobs all over the place or picking up crumbs everywhere, as opposed to being fed on a consistent basis at a location. And then there's those who look for a longer term kind of commitment. Because our industry is not really 100%. I mean, it's gig to gig, right? Show to show. And if a show, even on Broadway, if it doesn't do well after 6 months, they're going to pull it, or if it's a off-Broadway type of thing, or if it's a summer festival, they know that time is very limited. And so they're committed to it, but then they know that their relationships could possibly get burnt. I don't want to say get burnt, but, they might not get those phone calls as much as possible. And when I was freelance, I remember I was developing video games. This goes back into the 90s. And when I did get a video game contract, I was away for at least minimum 8 months. And so when I would come back, these guys would look at me like, you're a real dick. We hate you, but we need you. But they were reluctant to hire me again, because they knew if I got another contract, I'd be out for another 8 months. But I need
like a mercenary. You're going for the bigger contracts.
Yeah.
You're just out for the money. Go for the bigger contract.
Yeah. So I know you. That's what you were basically trying to express there, is that when you vet people, you want to make sure that you have people who have semi long term or semi short term commitments, and those who you can hire for a single one-off type of job.
Yeah,
which might be
it's both value. It's the scope of the job requires the time frame, and some work well, and others, like you said, some people really need consistency.
Yes,
right. There's no doubt in my mind that's like that. It gives anxiety to a lot of people if you don't have something to go to. Like I you know what I mean? Like I've lost track of how many people that really need that 9-to-5 job.
Yeah,
like it works for their brain. They work better. It gives them. Makes their life
peace of mind,
right? Peace of mind, whatever it is, right? But for me, I did some time back. I worked at Cipriani 42nd Street there for a couple months, and that was very consistent. That was, we're doing regular banker's hours. You know what I mean? And then we would get some overtime if we were booking ourselves on a show, like if we were just churning out the events, churn.
Right.
But what I found is I couldn't get everything I needed to get done in that time frame.
Yeah.
That was the first thing. 2, I hated it because it was lit. I would have to commute during rush hour on the 4 train, which is like just terrible.
It's packed.
So, and then lastly, the money thing wasn't actually panning out like I was thinking it would. Like I was making consistent cash, right? I was making consistency because every day we just bill. I bill weekly. I was on a weekly, bill cycle.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But what would happen is that I would work all week long. I'd be whipped. I'd go home. I'd sleep. I'd wait. Go back, do it again. And then by the time the weekend rolled around, I'd be like, I gotta pay for this, buy this. I gotta buy, a truckload of groceries. Gotta do all the laundry. I gotta do all this. I gotta buy the shelves. So I end up spending more money in 2 days than I would over X amount of weeks of freelance, because in the freelance world, you're working job to job, gig to gig. and you need to make sure that you can make your ends meet.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's feast or famine to a certain where you just work.
Yeah.
But you know how to stretch your dollar out. You get in that routine that you're like, all right, I got to make this nut.
Right.
And I can't really go out every night in order to do that. Like I go out a night or two, I got a couple nights budgeted, we're all good. You know what I mean? But I can't party hard every day. Because I just can't afford to do it. Or what's going to give? Yeah, I could go out and party every day.
Right.
But then you can't pay rent.
But then you have no money. Exactly.
Yeah, and so you got to find that balance, and that thing too. Again, it's like, some people aren't built to freelance. That anxiety of not having another job or not having something lined up.
It's scary. It's nerve-wracking.
It's nerve-wracking. It's scary. It's not like
all the above.
All the above. So it's the tolerance for that, and then I think your confidence in it too. Like if you're confident in what your skills you can bring to the table, and that that the individuals you're working with or your network is solid enough that everyone else is going to be working. We hope. You know what I mean? Then it's only fair to help out and throw the work to the other folks when you can.
That's true.
At least that's how I work.
You want to spread it. You want to spread. No, that's true. That's true. And that's part of it. Becomes part of your ecosystem also, right? Because you're keeping your network together. It's not just your team who's on that particular show, but it's also, again, those networks. It's like a chain. Each link has different people in that link, right? Or that you can call upon, and you can. But the cool thing is you have that ability to create those unique technical teams in order to support whatever type of show, which I think is a very open-ended architecture, as opposed to going to an office every single day and those are the same damn people that you see every single, and then after a while, this guy's poison, this one is messed up, this one's an alcoholic, this one's stealing, this one is lying on their timesheet, and you're just like, but I'm doing 80% of the work, and these guys are only doing 20%. And you're frustrated. At least you have the freedom, like you're saying, to create those unique teams. And that, I think, when you do those type of jobs, your clients are happy. They're the people who are sponsoring them, especially if it's one of those type of things where they have multiple vendors who are sponsoring, like a trade show or something like that. I mean, it could even be Miss Saigon. There's a lot of people who are venture capitalists or investors in that particular production. And they want to see that damn thing go well because they want to get paid, not just their initial investment, but they want to get paid, on top of that. So with that said, if people understand or if people don't understand it, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure in this industry. And, in the last 5 years, I think I've had about 6 of my friends and probably mutual friends of ours have passed away because of stress. I don't think it was drugs, because I don't think they did drugs. I just think it was the amount of work that the amount of work that we're doing, the expectations of who our clients are and what they want from us and what we need from our people so although we can put together these really awesome creative teams and support teams, we also are, those of us who are the company owners, we also are dealing with all of the stress. Because again, it's upstream, downstream, left and right. It doesn't matter. You're being pulled in all these different directions. And so how do you manage expectations from your client and to your team, and what is their expectation? This is another a double question. Yeah. And then what are their expectations also of you?
Yeah. So a lot of expectations are hard, right? So because unless they're hard if they're not clearly written out. If they're just assumed, and the assumptions are this, and this, the assumptions are hard, right? They're just there's nothing concrete about an assumption. So I think the backstory here, step back is a second. If you work with the same team, if you work with similar team members on projects, and you take that core team and you get a shorthand between those folks. And therefore, that shorthand includes those expectations, right? So from many producers that I work with, I've worked with them for 15, 20 years or something. So and I know them growing up, you know what I mean? Like, and we know that this is a really awesome part of our industry, is that you can start out as as a vendor or as a dude slinging a wrench or as a stagehand or whatever, and then as just a business relationship, producer, vendor,
Right.
and then throughout time over years, you know, through those individual projects ongoing, you develop a personal relationship. You know, it's very few and far between that I hire my friends first to come into the industry. I'm gonna work with these individuals. It's like, you know, you have a work relationship with them. That's fine. But our hours are so retarded and dumb and stupid and like not normal and or consistent. They, you know, anything from an 8-hour day to an 18-hour day, you have to, you know, you're running through the gauntlet with these people, and you develop a, you know, really kinship with them, right?
A different relationship.
You know,
absolutely.
And, right. And, you know, a bad gig or a tumultuous gig or something like that really tries everybody. Is a like an epoxy to relationships, right? If you and I can get through that really rough job, and we get through, we make it, and the job happens, and the gig happens because the show must go on, and you know, all that mentality. Then we're stronger for it, and we're better buddies because of it. Because it's a war story you can bind on, you know, so bond with. So there's that, you know what I mean? But the expectation part of things is that if you're working with the same core group, then you have a united expectation that you can present to the clients. And then the client isn't really honing in on just you, Chuck. Like, well, I need Chuck to do this, or I need Brendon to do this. They're saying, okay, we need the things to happen. Right. And so that's a little more manageable than those little tiny little nuanced thing. And then once you get into the nuances, there will be that's the nature of the beast. But then it's not as like, you know, it's not as, you know, as the epic important as it would be as if it was just an individual. So I think your relationships are core to begin with, and then those expectations kind of work themselves through the thing. But I wanted to talk about there was this thing that we talk about expectations, right? And I do a lot of these pricings and budgets and all this other stuff, right? So I found there's this little blurb. It's called like good, fast, and cheap, right? And you can pick two, right? You can't really have them all because so I got this. I could actually show it. I think if I do my homework right here, I could share the screen, which is just the little logo here. So it's just this little logo, right? You got the three things. You can't pick all three, because look, when they all overlap, you can't have all three. You're just dreaming. It's a fictitious world that doesn't work. But, you know, if you want something good and cheap, or cost effective and good quality, you're not going to get it quickly. Right. So it'll, like it said, or if you want it really quick and high quality, it's not going to be cheap. Right. It's just how the thing is. Something's got to give, like, out of those three to get two of them. Right. So I use this, you know, and it's funny to look at. This one's actually the PG version. There's another one or a little more snarky. Another one where it's like, you know, but that's kind of something that I use to, especially now as I'm doing more budgeting and more client facing producer type jobs. Like it's really, they don't know what we know. That's why we get hired, right? They don't know how to build a show. That's why we get hired to build a show. They don't know how to mix one. You know, so, but we have to be able to explain why our bill's coming in at $50,000, whereas they got another bid for 10. And you're like, well, no, you're getting 10,000. You're just getting what you're paying for here. You know, you're not getting the quality here. You're not going to get it quickly. You're getting it really, you know, like, or something, you know. So, and this little thing, you know, pays off later on when you can have those relationships and you can talk to them and say, all right, guys, like, you can't have everything all at once. You got to piecemeal it out and find out. So
no, that's great. Do you have any other what am I trying to say here? Any other examples? Or actually, do you have any examples of some of the shows that you can show us? Maybe how, like, listen, if we went cheap on this wouldn't have happened. Like, you can't get this, you know?
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I did this job earlier in the year. I'll find a picture that like suits it well. And it was down in New Orleans, and we were setting up for a concert that was a series of concerts over a weekend. And it was in part for the college football playoffs. down there, and we had to. I was the tech director, and I had to, I managed in essence everything from the stage, everything about the stage, including building the stage and all the infrastructure and everything else, generator placement, the work,
everything.
Yeah. So there was, and we had an outside vendor that I've never worked in who ended up being great. They rocked, but I was new with them. I never had worked with them.
Right.
And the client hired me and just said, go figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, here, this is what we've done before, but we've never done it before. So, so I had to make a lot of on-site judgment calls and figure out, how things are going to be placed and this and this. And let me see if I can bring up just a couple pictures here as I'm scrolling through them. I hope maybe I can.
Or maybe throw them up behind you as your wallpaper.
Yeah. Oh, I can do that. Hold on a second. Let's share just the screen for now.
Okay. Sounds good.
So this is just one of the setups from the build, and we're on the water. The Mississippi is to the left there. We've got some hotels. The French Quarter is to the right.
Yeah.
And we have a big stage. It's made out of scaffolding. It's actually not scaffolding. It's called shoring. And it's construction grade scaffolding, which is higher ratings, and the connection methods are a little different, but the same idea. Scaffolding, you build up and you do diagonals and you do crosses and X's and you build it, right? So, expectations were unclear with this show because new clients knew everything and they wanted stuff to just happen. And we were like, okay, well, and I worked with a production coordinator or a hiring manager, which was new for me. I never had that for this individual specifically just did all the crewing.
I see.
So I would say, all right, well, my lighting director and my assistant lighting director need 6 people for 3 days. My carpenters need this. My audio team needs 10 people for 2 days. Right? And I give them the call sheet, just the numbers, and that individual would then go and figure it out. Like they'd hire, a labor company, or they'd have local labor or whatever. They would just they'd go, right?
Yep.
So to build this structure, takes some manpower, and we're really out in the open and we're really exposed.
Right.
And there were certain instances where when we were early on, when the vendor was like, okay, if we have a perfect, beautiful week, we can get this up in 3 days.
Right.
Right. And then the rest of it, obviously, this is just building it. This is just the stage and
the structure.
There's 6 flatbeds of stuff that just comes for this, and then there's the lid, and I'll stop sharing that and I'll show you where it actually ended up looking like. But where I'm getting at is, like, there were certain times in there that there was cost saving options presented to us, or we were thinking about how to save a couple bucks if we really could go through. Here's one like midway that here's midway when I should just share the preview screen, and then this is kind of with the lid. We built a roof, a self-climbing roof with the whole thing. So this is kind of like halfway there, without any of the production rig under there.
Right.
Yet, and so we think the vendor says, okay, it's going to be 7 guys for 3 days or 14 guys for 40 days or whatever, how many days. Right. And then we come across it rains one day, torrential downpour, and we get 10% of what we should have gotten done.
Right.
Or whatever. Like, that was the case that happened.
Yeah. Now you're falling back.
And then we fall behind, right? Like, really behind.
Yes.
So here's what it ended up being. Does that still share I hope it does.
Let's see. I'm still seeing the same one.
All right.
From the build out with the roof.
Yeah. If I close that. Oh, oops. Okay. Interesting. So
and I know that location. How big is that stage right there? Just so the audience knows how big that is.
Oh, it was 70 wide by 50 deep.
Yeah. See, that takes a lot to build. I mean, I've been there. I've seen concerts there where they just brought in a mobile stage, and it looked nice. But this is more spectacular. This is a full build out. Yeah,
it's a monster. So the whole time, the end client was really trying to save money. like
Right.
really from the get-go. When we presented them with early on, this is going to take a week
Yeah.
to build this,
Yeah.
let's just say, right? They're like, can you do it in 2 days? And we're like, no,
Maybe
sorry.
with 60 people.
You know? Yeah, well, that's the thing. Is like, so there's
budget
really
wasn't there.
that scale that
Yeah.
you have to really maintain. First of all, I never say no. That's
Right.
one of my kind of things. I'm kind of not a yes sir, but I'm more of a let's try to find a solution to that.
Let's figure it out.
problem.
Yeah.
Let's figure it out.
You're
And
right.
So if they're like, can you do it in 2 days? That was one of the few rare occasions that I was like, no, we can't, because there's a physicality of this, that this takes a certain amount of people a certain amount of time.
Oh, sure.
And if you throw more people at it,
yeah,
it doesn't make it better. It
No.
doesn't make it go faster. It just makes more chaos happen because you have more bodies in the way. And
there's more coordinating that has to get done, and there's more watching, and yeah.
Yes, but it doesn't always pay off, even
Right.
with more coordinators. And I went through the exercise with this. If I clone myself, and there was 2 of us, and 2 of me, and then I took 16 or 20 guys over to stage right.
Right.
We started that whole thing over there, and the other guys were going over to stage left. It just, you still need a crew chief to tell the process of how that's built.
Right.
Requires the process, and it doesn't. You can't do it with more, and it wouldn't matter anyway, because we couldn't inflate the amount of people we needed, because they wanted to save money. The whole premise of cutting the timeline down was to save money.
Right.
You can't double the amount of crew and save money.
And also be safe at doing this. This is huge.
Yes.
This is how tall was this roof?
It was up there. Sorry, I just unshared it. I should bring up all the specs.
I would say,
but it was,
probably,
I think it was like a 40-foot.
I was going to say over 30 feet. Yeah.
Yeah. I think these side. I should reshare while we're talking to them. I think those side screens or the side scrims. Were. Oh, we can actually count the bays. They're 8-foot bays. So it's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's like 32 feet. The big banner. Yeah. The AT&T playlist banners. 32 feet tall.
Okay.
And this video wall on the side there is monstrous, and of course we're on the waterfront, and weather's coming, and we know weather's coming. It's an outdoor event, so we have to have really a wind action plan, or high wind action plan, as we call it, the HWAP. Right. And we have to make sure everyone knows what that is and how that happens and who's involved. And who makes. You can't have 500 people talking about like, it's gonna rain. Oh, guess what? My weather bug app says there's a purple cloud above us. Get this junk out of here. Like, I don't care about your stupid apps. We have the weather service, we hire meteorologists, pros for this, that they take all their sample data and they look at what they do, and then that's what they, it's worth in these instances when you have all these people. Yeah. It's hard to talk about gatherings and stuff, but when you have thousands of people rolling in like into a venue like this, and you have all their safety at your concerns, it should be their concerns.
Oh,
too.
absolutely.
So not just the crew of 30, 50 people. Yeah. It's 5,000 out front of that mojo barrier here. Oh, that, sure. That we have to pay attention to. And, we live in a litigious society. So anything that anyone has any chance to slip and fall and hurt and whatever, you're going to get whacked for it. And then your insurance and so on. So that shouldn't be the reason to think of safety and preparation at the forefront but that's the reality of it, is you got to be prepared for this stuff. So, when we're out there and we're building this and we get going, we have a really rainy, crappy day like day 2. We got nothing done because some of the local crews, some of the local labor just refuse to work out in the rain. Yeah, yeah. Whereas it sucks, but you can do it. But and I can't force them to do it. They're there, so we got some of the local crew. I won't say names or whatever, but if this was a different area, a different state, different geography,
I was just going to say, the
team would have been totally different.
I know. I was just going to say, for us up in New York, like your reputation is on the line, and you can't just not show up for a job. If you don't show up, you're going to get fired.
Yeah, and you're not going to get another one.
And if you're on a gig like this and you're from another state and you come down, I'll just speak on behalf of us from New York and the tri-state area. If you come, I'll just say New York, and I think New York and Connecticut. I don't know about New Jersey so much, but although a lot of New Jersey companies come into New York City, so we'll throw them in that also. But when we do state things out of state, even if we do things upstate and we have horrible weather, we're still working these things unless it's like a hurricane coming through where you can't do any work. We're going to work in rain. We're going to work in some as long as there's no electricity running, right, we're going to try to do whatever we can to get that job up and on, because the build out is one thing, but then the focusing, the on with the lights, the programming of the lights, the video technicians preparing their. I mean, usually the video guys have stuff that they've done pre-production wise, but then the audio guys, I think lighting and video. I mean, sorry, lighting and audio are the two major components that have to have the most time on site once everything is built out in order to do the work, because you can't do much pre-production work. You really can't. Well, I guess nowadays with lighting you can do previs, you can do all your programming, but once you do place all your lights in place, you are making slight adjustments. But and that lighting, that the operator still needs to run the lights to make sure that they're working, that there's no address issues and things like that. There's quite a bit. And then with audio, I mean, we have to ring out. We have to try to get as much gain out of the system as possible. You know, there's you know, we got to blend. We got to do all these things in order to try to make to just prepare for the first band to get there. You know, that's a lot.
You know, I was saying this before. It's like, you know, we work in the rain every day when we jump in the shower. Right? It's just, you know, like it's you everyone can get wet, and everyone does get wet.
Yeah.
So that doesn't stop work, and that can't stop work. I hate to say it, but it makes things, you have to be methodical, and you have to watch where you step, because you could slip and this and that, right? You have to pay attention. But you can work in the rain. You know, the only times that you can't is the hurricane, high winds,
lightning,
electricity, lightning, you know, any of that
like
stuff,
that storm.
You know, like and you really safety, right? But if it's just a first day load in and you're just, you know, can't moving a pile from a pile, you can do that. You just hope you have your poncho and your rain gear, you know, so you're not getting soggy, you know what I mean? But and it was interesting this year too, is that because it was in January, and it was a very mild winter. But when, you know, as far as snow wise and all that, and, you know, temperature, drastic temperatures, right, it's pretty mild. So, but when I went down there to do a site survey, it was pretty cold. It was like, because you're on the waterfront, the wind's whipping, you know, the wind's at least 10 to 15 miles per hour hotter than anywhere else inland.
Right.
So when it has a cooler air temperature, the wind's whipping through there. It was cold. It was chilly. So I was like, January, coming from New York, going down, you know, down south. Oh, I'm not wearing any shorts. There's not going to be any short weather, but hindsight, I should have brought some shorts, because later on it was hot enough to wear shorts, but it was also wet enough and cold enough that it would not be good. I would have gotten, you know, really ill really fast.
So you got to bring everything. You really got to
bring it. Yeah, it was just overpacking for, you know, you just need that one jacket that one day, but man, you needed the jacket that day. Yeah. Glad I had it, you know, like
it's true.
So yeah, it was. So I don't know where we got talking about that, but that was a big one, that their expectations were not clearly explained to me. So it was the whole time I was more trying to just go above and beyond and say, all right, you know what? I know what needs to go on here. I know what needs to happen. We need to build this, this, and this, and I need these people to do this. So it was just really trying to capture those resources and say, all right, I just got to deliver. And you work back from, you know, the timeline, you know, when we're going to go live, you know, or when the doors are opening. So you got to be ready to rock.
Just got to keep pushing.
And you just got to keep on pushing. And then I think we're going full circle here, as you asked me about expectations and money and cutting and all this. And here we had this labor coordinator, and I was just like, man, we have to make sure we have enough people to do this. Like, and each day we would revisit how that would work. You know what I mean? And that's pro and con, right? We revisit it and say, all right, guess what? We really made epic progress today. We're like kicked ass. Like, I don't think tomorrow we need 16 guys. Right. Tomorrow, maybe we trim it down to 10, you know what I mean? Like, or 12, or maybe we didn't handle as much as we wanted to get done today. So tomorrow we got to bring in 22 guys instead of 16, you know what I mean? And so what going back to the beginning of this, they're like, oh, cut. So midstream there, you know, middle of the week or something, you're like, oh, I got to add these guys, you know, to make the executive decision to add more crew. Yeah. But in adding to the budget, which is not approved, but with the forethought and the, like, you know, let's look into my glass ball here. If I really make the push early on, then I'll be able to pull back later on.
Right.
Right? So that's really my process that I did. I was like, just put it front end, load it up, load it front end heavy.
Yeah.
So at the tail end, you could taper off and get some cost savings there.
Right.
And secondly, and it's a little more appropriate, is that I hate cutting people like the day before. It's just I just don't like doing it. I didn't like when it happened to me when I was on cruise.
Right.
And I was booked the whole week. And then I do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then they'd be like, guess what? We're in good shape. We don't need you Thursday, Friday.
I know.
And now that's
yeah.
That's what happens when you're labor. You're at the whims of the labor company.
That's true.
But when I'm management and I'm hiring those labor companies, I can still think about the individuals that are booked for all week and say, all right, you know what, guys, we're doing really good here. Try to think of who doesn't want to show up, who wants Friday off. Take your bets now because we're going to trim down by Friday, and at least I get them prepped for it. And then I don't get the backlash later on, because again, when your crew is happy, when your team is happy, the core, everybody is happy. Your artist is happy because they can read that in a hot second. If your team is any kind of disjointed or anything, artists pick up on that in a second. And then they may not deliver their highest quality product because they're thinking about Joe Schmo being a grump, or the security guy at the door gave him a hard time, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter, right? It's if the artist has to be happy, we have to keep them up there,
right?
Perform
because they got to perform.
They got to perform. They got to get up there and not have to think about. And then they get out there. They have a good show. Audience is happy. Producers are happy. Artists happy. Everyone's happy. We all get our jobs back, right?
And the sponsor doesn't hear anything, right?
Yeah. Well, that's it. No news is good news, right? When the sponsor and producer go together, they're the kind of the same one
on the same league,
on the same level,
page,
They ask the same types of questions. They want the same type of things,
That's true.
Big picture, and they don't really care about the nuanced little things, but they do care about that big developed,
right. The whole macro, the macro.
The whole macro. The macro.
Because I think you tapped on it. Earlier you said, you're basically saying, listen, the way you run, the way you look to recruit people, personality is everything. It starts with you. It starts with you and how you approach everybody, and then the people who you look for, you want it to be a family, right? And I think that stream of consciousness, or that thread, has been throughout pretty much the entire discussions that we've had today. Doing the right thing, being a good person, looking out for the people who you're hiring, because that goes a long way, right? We got to work together. It's so true, like you said. When you get through a major disaster, or maybe it's not really a disaster, or things just not hit rock bottom, but just people just clash, and then you're able to get through it. You do build a deeper relationship with whoever that person is, first of all, but then also the team. They all advance. It almost seems like they advance overnight. Within a few hours, they come back, and everyone knows their shit now, because there's no more second guessing. Everyone now is like, okay, we did that. We just shed a layer of skin, and now, we're battle ready. And then I know you can get, it's not about getting more out of them. It's about them delivering more for the team, that now, okay, these guys, if I take them on this next job, I know we're going to hit it. I mean, we're going to kill this, and we're going to be able, and then the momentum, that inertia that you had already started, will give you that even more momentum to get that next job. And it might even be a more complex technical type of job, and it might even be away from home, which causes, some problems too sometimes, with boyfriends or girlfriends or whatever it may be, husband and wives and kids and stuff like that, other obligations. And so that's, so I really appreciate everything that you were talking about, what you were sharing with us, because those of us who are running our businesses and are hiring people and are going through these experiences, we all share pretty much the same kind of stories. Those people who are inspired and want to build their businesses, because there's a lot of young up and coming companies that are talking about, hey, I'm a DJ, but I'm also doing production work, and they're nowhere near what we have been doing for years, for decades. I think they're going to appreciate what we actually have discussed, because these are things that they're going to fall. It's going to fall into their wheelhouse. This is the nature of what the event world is all about. These larger jobs. I don't know what the post COVID-19 world is going to look like. None of us do. You did mention, hey, giving a bro hug, stuff like that. Will we be able to do any of that stuff? I don't know. I mean, some of us, it's just in our nature to embrace each other in that respect, and just being happy to see one of our brothers or one of our sisters in the industry. I think is really, really, or members in the industry. I think is really, really an awesome experience to have that camaraderie that I'm sure many of our people in the military get to experience, because they're fighting with each other day to day.
I was just thinking that too. When military right there is like, you're in the trenches with these individuals, and you come out of the trench and you're like, whoa, like we did that.
Yeah.
Yes. And yes, high fives across the board, and that just on a, an individual development wise, that it's a positive experience. And then you have individual development amongst the group, inside the group, then it just raises that up. And it's not everyone does. I have a different style of how I hire things and how I work and how I do things, but that style we're very fortunate in this industry that we have a lot of people and a lot of different facets that I can take those and that style and that ethos and take my team to it and do it, not to say that another individual can't do it and overpromise and mildly deliver or under deliver. I've never had an overpromise, over deliver. I don't think I've had anyone do that, but we definitely, there, after doing it, after a while, you start to manage your own expectations, which then translates well to everybody else, because you're clear and, at least for me, I'm very clear and outright. Like it used to be an actual detriment to me, is that I had too much, too clear, too abrupt, too informational. Like that was what I was just like, this is how it is. The budget's this. Deal with it. We need 8 guys. Do it in 8 guys. Like, and it was like, and that, that lost some jobs from me, because it was, it's just the delivery of that was like, all I could say is, this is going to take us eight guys for 2 days. It's just going to be, we can do it this way. We can do it this way. I can try to find, 2 of those guys or 2 of those people can be entry level people that'll cost less, and try to massage the numbers a little bit here and there. But it's just about delivery and it's just a style and a delivery that you develop. Not wrong to do it this way. It's just not how I do it. And that's, I think, the art I get to use, and that's why I still work in art, because there's no real one way to do it.
Right.
So, and I like the challenge of taking these shows to different venues. Yeah. And it's not just a theatrical venue where you have a stage and you say, okay, let me hang this thing, roll out the floor. Okay, go. Mm-hmm. It's, let's take this show that is this big and jam it into this other venue that isn't quite that big, or maybe it's bigger and you have plenty of space and but the trim height's not tall enough. Yeah. So how are we going to get the lights to work, and how are we going to get the projection to work if we don't have the height we need? Right. Well, then we got to do that, and I really enjoy those challenges of sitting there and looking at it and saying, all right, well, how are we going to do this? Because it's all a series of compromises and balances.
Oh, true.
It's what's going to get, it's a whole state of, there's some science in there. Like everything's like good when it's balanced, right? And it's like when it starts tipping is when all the fluid and action and reaction happens, because it's off balance. So you find the balance, it's good. It's like, so you hope that it doesn't mean that you get 2 speakers and the lighting guy gets 300 moving lights, but but we only have 100 amp service. So what are we going to do? That's true. What I mean? We put our hands together and make more electricity, and no one's going to pay for this. So what, so that's it's something that over time, when you work, it might seem like a very simple turnkey job. Right. You learn a little bit from it. Some takeaway. Always have a takeaway of a job. Whether I try to always have a positive takeaway, so you can remember good things, because it's nature's human tendency to dwell on the negative. I don't know why, but it's easy to do it. So it's a little harder to think positive and remember the positive.
But you have to.
So,
But you have
because
to.
you, oh no, sheer
have
out mental health. You have to remember that. If you remember all the bad stuff, no. But
You got to remember both, because
you got to remember both.
When bad things happen, or when difficult situations happen, and you figure out things, that's where you grow. And I think those are the times. The only way to contrast that is, you always have perfect shows. Well, now you're doing repetitious work, which is where you've mastered these skills. Okay, I know what to do. But when an issue does come up, the roof height is too short. That's when you take all your collective experience. That's where your wisdom comes in, and you say, okay, this is the only way we can do this to make this thing happen. We have to make some compromises.
Yeah.
But then you also have to know how to deliver that message to the client and say, because of this is the situation we're in. We're working it out right now. We're still going to make this happen, but we just had to modify blah, 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 but it's still going to look fine. And these are the steps that we are taking. I think when you're honest and you can deliver a very positive and a very confident message to your client, they'll be like, absolutely, hey, no problem. But if you show weakness, and if you show that something's wrong, and someone got screwed up and you don't know how to figure it out, they will probably step in and then probably never hire you again, unless you have a good relationship with them and they understand.
That's right. They're hiring us to do what they need. Like, they don't want to have to do what we're doing. That's the whole point of this, hiring us, right? And if they have to, then that's usually not a good thing.
Not a good thing. Yeah,
I'm with you there. But it all boils down to communication. If you're clear and communicative and honest, you said that. That's really key. Yeah. Like, there's no, what the heck? We're not shooting rockets into space. We don't have anyone under the operating table. We're not. There's no like mission critical lies at stake, aside for the high weather and the
safety
the stuff that all that aside. When we're actually doing like in a concert inside or something like that,
right?
There's no, like, it doesn't have to be that high pressure,
That's true.
But it can be because of people's expectations and meeting them, but it doesn't have to be. So it's like, right out the gate, say, because stress, I learned early on that stress affects my body in a very negative way. Like, this isn't actually that bad. This usually comes in really gray, like,
hey, I noticed
stomach aches.
It's very presidential.
Yes, now it's distinguished, right? But then when it was coming in like, a skunk on the side, I was like, okay, holy crap, this is really stressful. Why is this happening?
Yeah.
And like, it's the stress of the build up to that, because we, with responsibility comes a lot of stress. And,
it does.
The more responsibility you get means more higher paying job, but you got a lot more responsibility. And that's not just to hang a light or hang the chain motor or do what, this, whatever technical thing you need. It's the big picture. And then, a lot of stress. And everyone deals with stress different, right? Everyone has different mechanisms of dealing with stress. Some people smile, laugh it off. Some people get angry. Some people just absorb, and that's character traits that are very useful in many instances. Like, if someone can deal high stress, you can deal with high stress, then you put them on the corporate events, like, because they're going to be high stress and really high profile corporate event or something like that.
Absolutely.
Where everything's chop, you got to do it, like, and then the stress, then you just deliver. Sometimes I met some individuals, stress like motivates them. They're like, this is I'm on it, right? And they go, like, and
they get focused.
They get focused because of stress,
energy.
But like, and that's good. A really valuable trait. Whereas, some other people are like, just shrivel up. I don't want confrontation. Stop yelling. Like, and it's like, there's no need for yelling anyway, ever. But still, like, one of my my steward for the union when I was growing up, his name was Ugly. John Bradshaw, name was Ugly. Big master carpenter, big dude, 6'8", 6'5", 6'8" or something, big, monster guy, big beard, burly looking hillbilly dude, but just a powerful voice. Like, anywhere he can be, on the ground, upstage left, you could hear him all the way out in the audience, all the way in the back. You can hear him up in the grid. You could hear him outside. You know, like the guy was just like, ooh.
Yeah.
But he would never yell. His thing was, I'm not yelling. I'm just talking loudly. Right? You know, he was just like, listen to me. You know, I'm saying it loudly. I'm not yelling. Yeah. And it was because he wasn't angry, right? Yelling generally ties in with anger. Yeah. He was never angry. He was just like
he didn't lose his hearing being in the production or sometimes
maybe I guess maybe it might have been a little losing it a little bit, but everyone we the occupational noise hazards we have between the ones that we submit ourselves to, aka audio, and then the other ones that just happen of the clanging and the construction site noises.
Sure.
Like that it's just we should always have our PPE in and wear our earplugs and their stuff, and that's gaining traction lately. I would say only not too long ago that we can see any high-vis vests on job sites,
right? Or hard hats, right? Unless you're doing
hard
construction
hats or any of that. You know, definitely construction elements, but
OSHA. Yeah. Well, definitely OSHA stepped in a few years ago. I think a little over 10 years ago, or maybe just within the last 10 years to buckle down with some of those stages that collapsed, like in Indianapolis and up in Canada with Cheap Trick. Remember a few years ago, just because of the wind. I mean, but there was also a lot of weight on those build outs that, again, the wind was just going to knock these things over. You can't really fight Mother Nature sometimes, but I think when tragic things do happen, the right people get involved and safety requirements do go up. Right, our insurances all go up.
We need to be reactionary though. We should just be proactive. Just do it. You know, like I was doing this other stuff. I was doing the show. It was a performance, an orchestral performance with movies of clips of films, and we were going all over the place. We went out to the UK, did some stints, a couple shows out there, and we were there, going all over. But we were in Royal Albert Hall, and they sound a big siren. And if anything's happening up top, they have a bucket of hard hats. And it was like, wait, what's this? And they're like, yeah, everybody, like you, even producers and people, girls in dresses and everyone, put your hard hat on. If you want to walk out there when they're working up top, you need a hard hat on. If you don't do that, you're not allowed out there, period. And it was just that. And I was like, oh, wow, that's kind of smart. Yeah, why don't we do that? You know what I mean? Like, if there's anything work up there, you shouldn't just allow Joe Schmo and his wife to walk through. Like, anything could happen at any time.
Exactly.
Right? So you have to plan for that. And then once the crew actually got there, not just the riggers, once the rest of the crew, everyone's in high vis and a hard hat. Right. And most of them had steel toes and this and not, So it was like, and everybody on the team, like, and we weren't as the touring tech directors.
Right.
We didn't have that stuff. We came from the States. But it was like, we don't do what?
We don't do that.
And they were like, oh, here's your hard hat and here's your thing, you got to put it on.
Welcome to the UK.
Stage, building it, It was like, so then I came back and my summer concert venue that you started talking about, Celebrate Brooklyn out in Prospect Park.
Yep.
Then I started doing that. I was like, we are a blend of, we actually build the venue from scratch. There's the building there, but we got to build the self-climbing roof. We outfit it, we hang all the stuff, so there's about a week of build out now. I don't call it load in anymore because it's not a load in. It's a build out of the venue. We're putting the fences up, we're putting the tents up, we're doing that's the little infrastructure.
Sure.
And then week 2, 3, and 3.5, that's the load in. That's when the cable and the chain motors and the lights and the sound and the truss and the blah blah, and the amps are plugged in and the dimmers and the whatever, all that stuff is all plugged in. That takes 2.5 weeks, but it's actually, I'll show you this. I have a clip of like behind me here of like one of the days we actually bring in, roll out of the way, we bring in a crane, like we fabricate the roof that climbs up here, these 4 poles, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it gets up to the top, and you do that, and then it eventually goes from a crane structure like this where it's all hard hats and construction zone, right? And then fast forward a month later, and then we have that's the venue.
Oh wow!
Out a show. We have
I never knew.
Roof is up. We have festoons hanging from it. We have video walls left and right. The big stage.
Yeah.
7,000+, I think, in this shot, maybe 7,000 people in there.
Yo, that's
So
unbelievable. I never saw it with that. I don't remember seeing it, or maybe a long time ago with just the shell itself. Because
yeah, so
that's like over
shells
there in
there, like
Lincoln.
this picture, right? The band shell's there.
Yeah.
Right, that's just and I'd have to find another picture of,
Wow.
if I go to that one, the band shell's, you see a little bit of it
It
in the
just
middle there. It's like,
disappears.
yeah, well, this is a weird obtuse angle too,
Yeah.
so I'd have to find another one that's a little flat.
That's unbelievable.
Facing.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, what I'm getting at is taking those safety precautions that were now getting more mainstream because of oversight, of OSHA oversight and all this. But we also have the Event Safety Alliance and a couple of our industry that are trying to make standards here in our nation.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be because of building, because a stage blew over.
Right.
We should be reactionary. Everyone should be proactive and say, all right, let's make these choices and these decisions early on to really keep safety,
to make it safe.
Keep safety down. You just gotta, in the whole gathering thing, it's weird COVID time and no one's gathering, but that's what we do. We work in social gatherings. We have events for thousands of people, which get people together, which inherently makes things more dangerous because it just more people mean more variables, mean more stupidness, or whatever, and more drunkenness.
And things you can't predict. The things that, So have you guys, with this whole, COVID-19, has the new policy with social distancing, has that been talked about yet? Have you guys determined what to do for, like, if you guys can actually, for phase 1 or phase 2, I'm not sure what it is for New York, to get, to start the economy again, to start your stage?
No, there's too many unknowns. Phase 1, we're not going to be in phase 1. We, being the event industry, are not going to be in phase 1. I doubt we'll be in phase 2 either. I seriously think it's going to be like there's where the crew is the first to arrive and last to leave, right? That always happens every day.
Every day.
First one, we open it up, we got to swab the deck and turn on the stuff and power it up and get there and get ready, and then we do the show, and then we break it all down, pack it all up, and leave, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. First to arrive, last to leave. I think that's what's going to happen with the event industry and this restart. We're the first ones to go, right? Second, they were like, no gathering over 50 people.
Right.
That canceled a lot.
Yeah.
That's
almost everything.
Everything I do is over 50 people. Right?
Yeah.
So then it was like, okay, well, then when it starts to restart, they're going to do a little more. I don't know what they're going to set up first, but we're not going to be it's going to roll out, especially to the scale of this. And I'm more concerned about the artists that we work with all the time. It's going to be reach this saturation point now. It's like, listening to these artists playing on their couch or doing a podcast or like this or something. There's only so much you can absorb, sitting here. Do I want to sit here and watch Meghan Trainor or this or this or who? I don't know why I thought of that. That was the one I just thought of. But, and she's playing a song on our kitchen island, and singing it. And I was like, okay, that's kind of neat, I guess, but
that's
how many of those can I watch? It's really not that engaging to me. It's like there's this thing in the way, and it's certainly definitely all ways possible does not replace
a stage
interaction at performance.
Exactly.
Nothing about it. It's that experience. We sell experiences. And
that's true.
Sounds cheesy, but it's kind of what it is. You want to experience it now. And I'd say it's sickening. Actually, a lot of people experience it through this way now. Right?
I know.
They're looking through, and then they record it. So maybe it isn't that different that we just present it on the phone now. But that's, I think, one of these. But there's shifts.
But there's no replacing. There's definitely no replacing actually going to a venue, right? Whether it's Madison Square Garden or Celebrate Brooklyn or the Waldorf Astoria, the Plaza Hotel, Central Park.
Yeah.
Even a high school performance, just to get back to your roots, get back to my roots. There's something about people sitting amongst their peers, their friends, their families, and seeing something and partaking in something in real time. There's something magical. It transcends. Obviously we know that music and everything transcends borders and stuff like that, right? but the human experience is, there's things that we're conscious about and there's things that we're not conscious about. And to be able to sit in a place, even if you do have social distancing between you and the other person, at least you know you're not stuck in your house, that you're hearing things on a psychoacoustic level, on a in a real setting where the air is blowing, there's distractions, there's the main focus that's on stage and stuff like that, and the smells, right? The smells of maybe someone smoking weed 100 feet away,
Right.
or the
Yeah.
beer, or the grass, or whatever the hell it is. Hearing the siren of the cops driving, or the EMS driving by, whatever the case may be. You're not. You're someplace else that you wanted to be. You were looking for. So the expectation. See, it's all also about expectations. I wanted to. I planned this to be where I'm here, so I have this unique experience, because you can't replicate that at home. Even if you have virtual reality goggles, it's not the same thing.
It's not the same. No,
It'll never be.
It's only 1D, like, or something. So it's missing the other dimensions, like
Absolutely.
hitting the other senses. That's a really good experience. It taps all those senses.
Yeah.
As you.
So true. So how can people get a hold of you? How can they find any information about you? Are you on YouTube? Are you on Instagram, Facebook, website?
We're all over the place. Facebook. We have website, BoydDesign.net. Instagram, Twitter. They're all out there. Just search for BoydDesign Inc.
BOYD Design.
Yep. BOYD Design. Yep.
No S at the end, right?
No. One where I think our Facebook page, believe it or not, is like facebook.com/BoydDesigns. But that was, way early on, and that was what it was available. I think it's big. Yeah. So, but you can find, if you do BoydDesign without, not plural, I think it just goes to me. So my Facebook page, which then would link over to, you can just find the links. Yeah. Excellent. But search for me or BoydDesign Inc. And we've been really pushing. We just put our new website out recently, which was good. Been in the works for a couple months, maybe
Excellent.
A year or two now. We got pretty busy, and it just got put on the back burner.
Right.
But we got that cooking and got a good Instagram chunk. We've been pushing Instagram lately because it seems to be a lot of folks on that.
I think it's the platform everyone wants to be on now. It's the cool thing. Besides TikTok.
Besides TikTok, right. Right, we're not doing TikTok.
We're not doing that. I know, but we're missing out. We're missing out on all those likes, all those virtual likes.
Oh my goodness, right? Yeah, so that's the way. I mean, So, and of course, to reach me, to reach you, we're in the same network. So it's that's like, if they can find you, they can find me. You know what I mean? So in many instances,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, listen, man, it's great to see you. I'm glad you had the time to share with us and share with me. It's been a while. I always miss you. That's the other thing. Like when we don't work with each other for a while, you miss that partnership, that camaraderie, that relationship. And then when you're working together, it almost seems like, wow, it was only like a week ago, but it could have been 3 months ago. Something could have taken you away for a whole year. You might have been on the opposite coast. You come back, hey, I need Chuck, I need you to come in and help me on this. And like I said, it's almost like your friends that you went to college with, that you just had such a really really tight relationship with, or family, things like that. And then, so those are those,
clicks.
Those are those,
clicks.
And those are those experiences that I always tell technicians who come in. I say, listen, you want to get to know everybody. You want to come in with the excitement and that energy that you come into this industry. When you leave us to move on to go to other companies, leave with that same intention, with that same consciousness, however you want it to be, because how you come in and how you leave really goes a long way. Because if you don't get the wind under your wings to take off and to get to that next place, you can always come back. Whereas sometimes if they do leave, and they leave on kind of bad terms, it's kind of difficult to hire them.
Don't burn any bridges.
Don't want to burn bridges.
You never know when you need to cross that bridge again, to get back. If you got to walk the other way, you take a different path. Change is totally normal, right? And,
yes, true.
And people explore different options and different avenues, and all the time. It's totally normal. But as I said, don't burn a bridge. It's like, I think your exit is more important than your entry. Your entry will be like, okay, you're in, and then you gear up and you become part of the collective work family or something. But
Yep.
as you exit, if you're like, lighting up the Molotov cocktails and burning the place down, like they'll remember you as that guy.
Yeah.
And you'll certainly be blacklisted from that team. Whether or not you'll be blacklisted from other teams, because, it depends how spiteful or any of that. But we've seen a lot of that, But it's just honesty goes a long way, right? Honesty and respect is like kind of core value. If you respect your coworkers and you're honest with them, they'll respect you, and keep on giving. It's all about, I'm not very religious in that regard, but karma is like she's a
keeps coming
mistress,
back.
And, so like she help her out, you know what I mean? Because she's gonna help you out. Like it's just doing to others as you would do unto yourself.
That's
like
true.
That's really the key, and that's been successful for me for a long time.
Yeah.
And
it goes a long way.
Even on ones that ended poorly, you don't end poorly. You know what I mean? You just say, okay, well, that didn't work out. Thank you for the opportunity. Right. Always thanking everyone for the opportunity.
That's true.
Because without that opportunity, you have no learning experience, and you have no way to know if that was good or bad.
Right.
You still need those opportunities to forecast or to show you that answer. To see that was a bad gig. Why was it bad? I don't really know why it was bad.
Yeah,
it just felt bad. Oh, it was bad because X, Y, Z, or I don't very rarely have really bad ones anymore. It's just how they are all really good. It's just when we remember, what do we remember? We remember the epically good or the epically bad. Like that's what we don't remember anymore. Everything in the middle is kind of just a blur.
Yeah.
You remember those big rainy days or the lightning strikes and the shows that are canceled because of that. But then you remember the 25,000 plus people watching David Byrne in a tutu on the stage on a beautiful summer day. Like, you know what I mean? Like I don't remember the rest of the day. I remember him coming out in a tutu, or he actually rode his bike to the stage, and then he's wearing a tutu on stage. We're like, what? But it was like an epic show.
I remember.
So many people. And with that, it's hard to remember all the little stuff, but we just remember just the sheer volume of people that we could not. It was like just, but I don't know. So it's great. Thanks again for having me, Chuck. It's great. Like
always.
You said, it's been a while. We don't see it as much anymore. You
I know.
Moved away.
No, I'm still in New York. I'm still in New York. I'm I mean, I'm down in Virginia, but I'm still headquartered in New York, and we have a satellite office and a satellite warehouse down here that we do some stuff locally. But most of the work is still up north. It's
still up north. All right.
I mean, that's why New York City. It's it's a wonderful town. It's still it's the gift that keeps giving in a lot of ways. But through New York City, again, the people who we meet, and then the adventures that we have in the city and also outside where that journey takes us. It's been it's been a great 20-something years. I've been doing this for 35 years this year. So I want another 35, but but not sitting at home. I mean, I don't mind doing the podcasting. Hey, we'll do 35 years of podcasting, but we'll just talk about the same stories at that point.
We'll have new ones.
We'll have new ones. I know, good ones too. Excellent. Well, Brendon, good to see you, man. Thanks again for all your time. God bless you, and keep building that garden of yours, because you'll have a bumper crop this summer, like us.
We're already on it. It's just too cold out there, though. It's nothing's German. We got to bring it in. Got to do more. We have a little greenhouse, a little 6x8 greenhouse in the back, and it's underutilized in general because in general it's just underused. But this year seemed we have nothing but time, so we'll. Later today is on the docket. We have the little seeds, and we do the little sprouter, little tiny things,
starter.
Right? The little starter plants, but we got to put them into the greenhouse because the greenhouse is, 70-something degrees in there.
It stays warm.
It stays warm consistently. So that's what they need.
Hey, the good thing is, at that, I was gonna say at that temperature, I don't think COVID-19 can survive. So it's good.
Keep it cold.
Sounds good. All right, brother. Hey, have a good week or enjoy the weekend. I know it's Friday, but let's get together again. Let's talk. Maybe we'll talk about some other subject matters and stuff like that. Which
perfect. We didn't hit all. We had a whole kind of outline, and we jumped around, but it was good to have the outline. But we didn't hit some of these things.
We got 20 years to talk, man. We got a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of collective, and individual stories and stuff like that, and all those things. So thanks again, brother. I appreciate it. You have a great weekend. I'll talk to you soon.
Too.
All right. Thanks again.
Take care.
Bye now.
Bye.
Excellent. Well, that's my good friend Brandon Boyd from Boyd Designs, and you can find him online, also on YouTube. Um, he has quite a bit of a history in the event industry, a legacy. Excuse me. He already has built a legacy. Like I guess in some ways I have also, but he's also done things on the West Coast. He's done things like he said overseas in Europe and around the world. And so this is where, if you're inspired, if you're in high school at the moment watching this, or even in college, and you're in the theater program, like Brandon said, his journey all started from realizing that in a play that was on stage with his high school, to have two, he said Fresnels, right? Those are lights that have the circles in it. So if in some light fixtures that you see, if you go to different places, they have these circles, right? Not concentric rings, but they have circles in it, and that basically breaks the light and kind of makes the light focus a certain way and creates a more even pattern. But he had the foresight to and the creativity to say, hey, listen, when the chorus, when they were doing a call and response, I'll light up the stage left side and I'll light up the stage right side. And imagine if figuring that out was something that inspired him to learn more, which is what he said he did, in order to again to figure out what else could he do, right? The you know, that alone is the creative part of your mind. What else can I do with just a few instruments, lighting instruments for him? For me, it was audio. What can I do with audio? How can I make things sound better with items that might not be the best equipment? And so that's the spark of creativity, of inspiration, in order to seek out more information, more knowledge, more curiosity into figuring out how to accomplish things, sometimes with less, and then slowly add more and more to the picture in order to start to control more things, in order to grow what was once a very simple yet technically awkward and sometimes complex, again, with two lighting instruments or a few microphones, to something where you might be running 70, maybe 100 microphones, maybe 100 to a couple hundred lighting instruments. This is what he can do, and that's just on one facet of this industry, which was lighting. He also does technical management. He does production management. He also does training. He also does the production work, which has to do with, taking a client's, their vision and bringing it someplace else and building it out and creating a new reality for the client, for their audience that comes there, so that ultimately the sponsor, if it's AT&T, if it's Coca-Cola, if it's Anheuser-Busch, it could even be Zoom, right? Whoever the sponsor is, could be Wix.com, whoever they are, whoever's the paying client, then says, that was amazing. We got our photos. We also got all the feedback that we needed. Of course, we got our emails and maybe phone numbers and stuff like that. But the idea is upstream and downstream, all expectations were fulfilled, working with multiple people from different walks of life, from different areas of expertise, and giving expertise or learning an expertise or even developing again, everyone has to start from somewhere. So collectively, how we all work together as a team, it's magical. And this happens when you're in the entertainment industry, right? The production, the live event industry. And so if you found value in this, with this discussion that I've had with Brandon Boyd from BoydDesign, definitely check out more and more of what we're doing, because there's so many people who are like Brandon, who are like myself, who are like other people who we've been interviewing, that whether they're on stage performing as actors or performing on stage as musicians, right, or behind the scenes creating these venues to happen so that people can gather pre-COVID-19 and hopefully post-COVID-19. That's the magic, and we hope that this is something that's going to inspire you to want to continue down your path to find who you are so that eventually, like us, you can give back in many different ways and offer your wisdom in order to inspire the next generation. Thanks again for joining me. I'm Chuck Moses of Viper Studios in Unit 3. We'll see you at our next podcast. Thanks for listening to this podcast episode from the Viper Studios and Unit 3.live Global Podcast Network. And stay tuned for more exciting episodes to follow. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with your friends. And of course, check us out online on Instagram at Viper Studios INC. And for more information about what Viper Studios and Unit 3.live can do for you, check us out online at www.viperstudio.com and unit3.live.